After an extended leave of absence, Lara Croft is back in Tomb Raider: The Angel of Darkness for the PS2. This game's been a long time in the making and was promised to be sort of a re-envisioning, a reinvention of the Tomb Raider series, now with kind of a darker edge to it and all new mechanics like stealth gameplay. The first screens that were released of this latest Tomb Raider game made it look more like Metal Gear Solid or something than like Tomb Raider. It had Lara sneaking up on people and kind of about to snap their necks or something, rather than jumping through catacombs and the sorts of things that are familiar to fans of this long-running series. In reality, this new game is reinvented to some extent. It is darker. It's got a pretty engaging story to it, more so than some of its predecessors. But it's also got some really, really serious problems. The story begins when Lara's former mentor is murdered, and she's the only one at the scene of the crime. There's been a serial killer on the loose in Paris, which is where this all happened. And but Lara kind of looks in the mirror and she's not sure what happened. She's shaken and she's not sure. Maybe she's the one that did it. Maybe she killed her mentor in the heat of the moment. And that's sort of the initial mystery that you'll have to uncover, even as you're fleeing from Paris police in order to try to get to the bottom of what happened and try to get some answers. There's actually much more to the plot than just a murder mystery, and soon enough there's a secret society involved and some ancient paintings and all kinds of much bigger and grander stuff. The story's actually pretty epic and really quite engaging if you let yourself get far enough into the game to experience it. It's probably what's going to be the motivating factor for you to keep pushing yourself through some of the game's more frustrating moments, because you'll want to know exactly what's going to happen and how everything is going to be resolved. You'll run into the problems with Tomb Raider really early on. The initial portion of the game is supposed to be kind of a tutorial where you learn Lara's various moves, like her ability to climb onto stuff and grab ledges while jumping and things of that nature. But you'll experience, in the very first moment of the game that Lara, even though she's supposed to be this kind of agile adventurer, is really controls a lot more like something like a cement truck or something like that. It's very hard to move her around. There's a very noticeable delay in the response time when you kind of push the analog stick in a direction to where she actually begins moving. And simple actions like aligning yourself parallel to a platform so that you could easily jump to the other side are made difficult because you can't even turn easily in this game. And, Tomb Raider fans may be used to this to some extent because the Tomb Raider series has never been known for its really responsive control. But if anything, the control seems worse than ever in this latest game, and that really hurts it quite a bit. It's going to make it so that people who aren't fans of the Tomb Raider series aren't going to give this game much of a chance. The good news is you can get past the control problems, basically after hours of suffering through them, and then, you can start to get somewhere. Fortunately, you could save your progress at any point in the game, and you'll really have to, because oftentimes Tomb Raider: The Angel of Darkness devolves into sort of trial and error, where you're just attempting the same jump over and over, or just trying to figure out a situation that's very unclear, like where you're supposed to get to in some big dangerous cavern or something like that. You'll keep falling to your death time after time, possibly dozens of times on end. There are all these little things in this game that just make it tedious to play, kind of a textbook case of things that you shouldn't do when trying to make your game fun. It's really too bad, again, because some of the actual action in this game is pretty entertaining, and the animation for Lara looks great. There's some really death-defying leaps and some pretty big shootouts and stuff like that. The new gameplay elements in the game don't really add up to that much. There is a stealth mode now. Lara can creep up on people, but she really doesn't have to. You could just blow them away, from long range. The enemy AI is so stupid that there's really never much of a situation where you need to rely on stealth, even though it's constantly an option that's available to you. One of the other consequences of this is that the properties of your jumping will shift over the course of the game. You'll start to be able to jump further, and between the bad controls and the fact that the jumping is being tweaked a little bit every now and then, you'll never quite grow comfortable with your ability to jump, more than likely. You'll just, never quite be able to know exactly how far you're going to go. So pretty much, like I said, you're always going to be falling to your death a whole lot. You die a whole lot in this game. If you don't like dying in games, this game isn't for you. Tomb Raider's got some other glitches. There's some graphical problems, like you'll often see Lara's shadow just projected onto nothing, like when she's climbing hand over hand, on a rope or something, you'll just see the shadow floating in midair. There's clipping. Enemies will kind of clip through objects, and sometimes Lara will. And then there's some more serious bugs, like we had the game crash on us a couple of times, things like that. I mean, again, this stuff, as you play through the game, you're bound to run into some of this stuff, hopefully none of the particularly serious stuff. And it's too bad that the game has these sorts of bugs in it, because there really is a good or even a great game underneath it all. There's just a lot of variety to be found here. The new focus of this Tomb Raider means that there's a very good juxtaposition of kind of modern day environments. Like at the beginning, you're in the Parisian ghettos, and you go to the Louvre Museum, and you try to get to the top of like a dance club and things like that. And then you've got the more traditional Tomb Raider type stuff, ancient catacombs, long forgotten temples, and things like that. You've got big, huge, wide open spaces and tight, narrow, cramped spaces. There's even a new playable character for some portions of the game, and certainly not a majority of them, named Curtis Trent, who's got some of his own animations and unique moves, although he largely controls just like Lara and controls just as bad for the most part. The game would look great were it not for kind of the graphical glitches that you'll encounter time and time again, really. But the environments themselves look very good, and there's some nice high-res textures and some nice ambient effects, things like that. So again, when you walk into some of these gargantuan temples and elaborate galleries and things like that, you'll probably be pretty impressed. The game sounds very good as well. The audio is probably the best thing about this game, in fact. There's some excellent voice work for all the main characters, and the musical score is just fits the game perfectly, no matter what area you're in. It's too bad that the music cuts off when you pause the game and when you go to load and stuff like that, because otherwise, that might have helped alleviate some of the frustration of having to reload your progress again and again when you get to one of the tough points. So this is a game that just can't be wholeheartedly recommended. It's got too many obvious flaws to be able to give it to someone and say, here, have fun with it. There are just too many caveats here. If you're a hardcore fan of Tomb Raider, if you consider yourself to be a very patient gamer who can readily overlook certain big flaws, then this game has something for you. It's got some cool stuff to see and some cool plot to experience. Hardcore fans of Tomb Raider and very patient gamers are going to be able to overlook most of these problems and enjoy Tomb Raider: The Angel of Darkness for all its good qualities. Unfortunately, most gamers probably won't.